You ever tell someone no and suddenly you're the villain of the year? That's exactly how this all started for me. One stubborn no to a couple of sketchy strangers, supposedly friends of our iron-fisted HOA president. And the next thing I know, she's dialing up the cops like I'm some neighborhood menace. Let me just say, when the police arrived, they sure weren't there to help me. And if you think you've ever seen HOA drama before, well, buckle up. This story gets so much messier than you'd expect, kind of like one of those movies where you keep shouting at the screen, "Don't go in there," but the guy goes in anyway. Yeah, I was that guy. You ever had a neighbor weaponize the rules against you or the cops? Because that's what happened to me in Oakwood Hills. Now I moved here thinking it'd be a fresh start, a place where I could finally put down roots. My name's Gavin Cole, and I make custom wooden signs, the kind you see at historic buildings or schools, all hand-carved, every letter meaningful. My granddad taught me the trade, and every time I run my fingers over a new piece of pine, I remember his old calloused hand tapping my first real carving. Now it means something. I thought buying my own house was the last piece of that puzzle. Sure, there was talk of an HOA, but I figured what's the worst that could happen? Keep your lawn trimmed, no neon paint. Common sense stuff, right? I should have known better when the closing contract was thicker than my old lease and the rules packet looked like a phone book. I hadn't even finished unpacking when Diana Mallory marched up my driveway, HOA President white blazer folder tucked under her arm like she was serving a warrant. She smiled that politician's smile and laid out the guidelines, every rule spoken like it was God's law. Acceptable house paint, proper grass height, wattage for porch lights. I'm not kidding, the woman had diagrams. She noticed my pickup in my workshop and practically lit up, but the second she saw my sign for the elementary school, she was on me about approved business signage and the architectural review committee. Then, as if I hadn't spent hours carving that sign, she started critiquing the serifs. Can you believe that I wanted to say something but just gripped my coffee and let her talk already, realizing this was about control, not community? Later that night, sitting among half-unpacked boxes, I read the welcome packet. 47 pages about everything from wind chimes to garbage can orientation stuff you wouldn't dream up in a fever. I started to wonder if I'd moved into a museum, not a neighborhood. That night, I got my first formal warning. Apparently, my workshop lighting was excessive lumens. 72 hours or a $50 fine. I laughed, but not for long. The next morning, Mrs. Patterson from next door gave me the look she'd already been fined for a Memorial Day flag. "Just be careful," she said. "She doesn't like anyone who steps out of line." And it didn't stop. A note about my mailbox finished unsigned, but I didn't need a signature. That's when I made up my mind I wasn't going to be another nervous neighbor hiding behind the curtains. If Diana wanted a showdown, she'd get one. What she didn't know was before I did custom signs, I'd worked government contracts, city halls, courthouses. I'd learned how to read fine print, how to find the cracks in the walls. So I went to the community center and asked for the full HOA charter, 83 pages, if you can believe it. And there buried deep was my golden ticket. As long as my business was licensed and actively operating, my work truck could be parked on the street. So I spent the next morning turning my pickup into a rolling billboard, magnetic signs, every tool I owned in the bed, then parked it right in front of Diana's house. You should have seen her blinds twitch. Her next letter landed the next day, accusing me of violating parking regulations. But I was ready, business license, municipal code, highlighted in yellow. Watching her face crack as she read the rules back to me, let's just say it was almost worth the trouble. But winning a round against Diana was like poking a hornet's nest. You don't get stung right away, but you know it's coming. Her retaliation got weird. Noise complaints for using a hand sander on a Saturday morning. Another violation for my trash can, being out half an hour too late. It was death by paperwork. I threw a little barbecue, nothing crazy, just a few friends, including Wes Turner, who's built like a linebacker and doesn't scare easy. "You sure you want to poke the bear?" he said, but by then it was too late to back down. The neighborhood was so quiet it felt staged. Even the security camera at the entrance was suddenly out of order, just a handwritten sign and fresh scratches on the wires. Wes noticed too. "That thing was working yesterday," he said. "Bad timing or something more." Around 4, Diana showed up with 2 guys, Jake and Tommy, she said. They didn't look like the garden club type. Jake was tall and covered in prison tattoos. Tommy was built like a bouncer and never stopped scanning my house. Diana's friendly smile was all teeth. She wanted me to let them in, show them around, help them feel welcome. The way she said important made my skin crawl. I kept the gate shut. Just having a quiet afternoon with family, I lied, and Wes moved up behind me, arms crossed. Then I caught at Tommy passing Diana a wad of cash when they thought we weren't looking. My stomach dropped. Wes whispered, "You see that cash?" Diana's face went from hopeful to pale. I shut her down. "Not today," I said louder than I meant to. Her mask cracked panic, not anger, just for a second. Then she threatened to call the cops, accused me of being unneighborly. Jake and Tommy lingered looking at my house like a menu before finally disappearing. "She's not scared of us," Wes muttered. "She's scared of them." 20 minutes later, sirens. 2 patrol cars, neighbors peeking out from behind blinds. Officer Williams asked what happened. I explained the 2 strangers, the cash, Diana's insistence. Wes had caught the whole thing on video, Diana, the cash, the shifty looks. Officer Williams watched it twice, then his radio crackled. Suspects from the Elmwood burglaries spotted in Oakwood Hills. He looked at the video, then at Jake and Tommy walking a block away. In a flash, backup arrived, and the 2 were cuffed in the street. Turns out Jake and Tommy had been running a string of home burglaries. And Diana, well, she'd been helping them for a price. She picked targets, let them in under the pretense of community checks. My house was next on their list, but I hadn't played ball. The officers took statements. Neighbors started talking. Mrs. Patterson had seen Diana meeting with the guys. Another neighbor remembered Diana's car outside burglarized homes. Even as they led Diana off to answer more questions, she tried to spin it, claimed she'd been tricked by clever criminals, painted herself as the real victim. But Diana wasn't done. By Monday, she'd filed complaints against me, said I had brought Jake and Tommy to the neighborhood, forged HOA violations, even tried to claim my business was a front for crime. The papers looked legit until you noticed the ink was still tacky and the dates didn't match. Wes, who knows permits, spotted it immediately. These are fake. Mrs. Patterson saw Diana forging documents in her garage, drinking wine like she was celebrating a win. Then came the big scene. Diana called an emergency HOA meeting to address security threats. The room was packed. She'd built a whole board of photos, lines, and fake timelines, painting me as the mastermind behind all the trouble. For a second, I thought she might pull it off. Then Harrison Beck, a retired insurance investigator, stood up. He tore her story apart with receipts, timelines, even the original HOA charter. "This isn't oversight," he said. "This is fabrication." The room turned. Mrs. Patterson and Mrs. Harris spoke up, describing what they'd seen. In one motion, the residents voted Diana out, 31-2. She stormed out, threatening doom. After that, it was like someone let the air back into Oakwood Hills. Diana moved out. The new board rolled back her rules. People started talking to each other again. The police finished their investigation. Jake and Tommy got 5 years each. Diana got 18 months and a stack of community service. I started getting more business than I could handle. Apparently, surviving HOA sabotage and stopping a crime spree is good advertising. The real victory wasn't just beating Diana or getting her out. It was seeing my neighbors finally breathe easy, share coffee, plant a garden, let their kids play without fear of fines or threats. As I carved the new community sign, simple and warm, I thought about what my granddad used to say. "Wood doesn't lie, you just have to carve away the mess." That's what we did. And if you've ever taken on a power tripper with a clipboard, drop your story in the comments, because the only way to stop bullies is to carve out the truth one stubborn no at a time. Now tell me, where do you draw the line between rules and real community? Would you have let them in or stood your ground? Let's hear it.